In this video, I'm going to show you the 3 key pitfalls you must avoid if you are finding yourself in the brink of a divorce or a separation. Stay tuned to the end of this video as well, because I'm going to show you what you can do instead. And these are 3 very common mistakes that even my clients, when they first join the program, that they make. And they make it because these are ideas and steps and procedures that are actually taught by a lot of other coaches, a lot of therapists even. So this is a video that you really don't want to miss, because these are the mistakes that you really don't want to make as well. And in case you're new to the channel, my name is Geoffrey and I help men with everything they need to design a thriving relationship by themselves. So if you want more content on this topic, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Also click the bell button as well to be notified when I post new videos every single week. And before I begin this video as well, I also want to let you know that the free masterclass on the 5 proven steps to rebuilding your relationship from the ground up is still open. So if you want to join me in that masterclass, or if you want to submit your application for the Relationships Revival program, then be sure to stick around to the very end of this video for an announcement on how you can join both those things. So let's start with what we call logical persuasions. And this is what we call in our program the 3 toxic phases. And we call it the 3 toxic phases because it's really 3 different layers of this. You can either do this in a passive way, in a stoic way, or in an active way. But logical persuasions essentially is when your partner tells you that she wants a divorce, she wants to leave, she wants a separation, and you panic, you are driven out of fear, you're driven out of urgency, and you try to use either this passive, stoic, or active ways to try to convince your partner to stay. So if you were to do the passive way here, this is when you try to play hard to get. You try to play the high value man card. You simply walk away and you say, you know what, if my partner doesn't believe or understand my value, then screw her. So you walk away thinking that walking away will make you seem higher value, leading your partner to come closer towards you. Now the stoic approach is when you're trying to use a lot of promises, a lot of justifications, a lot of logical arguments to either guilt trip your partner into staying or try to convince her into staying. Like, here's all the reasons why you should stay, and here's all the reasons you should not leave as well. Now the active approach is more of a anger approach. When you're actively and intensely guilt tripping your partner, you're punishing your partner for leaving, you are blaming your partner for leaving, saying to yourself, for example, oh, this is her fault, she's not very committed, something is wrong with her, she doesn't understand people's value, she doesn't understand or appreciate what I've done, etc. So you have the passive, stoic, and active phases here. And the danger behind this one and why it's so easy to fall into is because a lot of programs actually encourage this. So we get a lot of dropouts from other programs who come into our program and finally get results. And when they come in, they have to actually undo a lot of these toxic behaviors that's been taught by them by other programs. And here's a screenshot of it as an example. Now, to understand why this is so toxic, we need to understand why your partner wants to leave in the first place. Now, a lot of people think that people want to leave because of the systemic problems, the set of problems in the relationship, but that's actually not true. The real reason why people want to leave is usually, again, the lack of safety. So let's say you have sexual problems, you have communication problems, you have all these issues, logistical issues as well with your relationship, where you guys differ in ideas, etc. All that stuff is actually not that bad if you have a relationship that you can talk about it, you can express it, you can feel understood on it, and when you understand each other on it, you can resolve it. So if you have emotional and psychological safety to do it. But if you have those problems and you don't have the safety, both emotional and psychological, to deal with it, to be listened to, then that's when the problems become quite hopeless, because you're now in a catch-22. If you talk about the problems, something bad happens, you're not listened to, you get punished, you get blamed, etc. If you don't talk about it, then you cannot ever resolve the problem. So either way you step, you're wrong. So that hopelessness, that catch-22 from the lack of safety is what causes your partner to want to leave, not the problems itself. That's a crucial distinction to understand. And if you look at how we actually destroy the safety, we can go back to the 3 toxic phases again. If you're used to responding things in a passive way, in a stoic way, or in an active way like this, that can really destroy the safety, both emotional and psychological safety in the relationship. So going back to why the passive, stoic, and active approach never ever works, let's give 5 reasons here. And there's more reasons why this doesn't work. But number 1, you gotta stop kidding yourself first and foremost. So when you try the passive approach, for example, when you try to use even the stoic approach or the active approach, you're trying to show your partner here that you're higher value. And you're thinking that she's leaving because she doesn't see the value that you give. Now the thing is that if she wants to leave, that should tell you that the value wasn't there in the first place. We talked about this in a previous video where we talked about how a lot of men only provide what we call the low-level values. They can give the material values, but not the spiritual values. And the spiritual values include emotional and psychological safety. So if your partner wants to leave, she's basically telling you, I do not feel emotional and psychological safety, and I do not have any of the spiritual values that I need, that I want in a relationship as well. So you playing all these games doesn't show that you're high value. She already knows that you're not high value. So you're just making it worse. In fact, you're going to show her how childish you are. If you take this approach of playing games, then you're just showing her how childish you are and that you're not aware of the depth of the problems in the relationship. You are not aware of the depth of the problems within yourself because you think that you can just say a few words here and there to try to convince her to stay. It shows that you don't understand that the problems go so much deeper to the point where it gets her to feel very, very hopeless. And it also shows your level of selfishness. If your partner wants to leave the relationship and you're trying to convince her to stay using all these logical arguments, playing all these games, then it shows her that you don't really care about what she wants, you only care about what you want. And what you want right now is for her to stay. Regardless of whether she wants to stay, there's reasons for her to stay or not. You don't care about that. And the last thing is that even if it does work, these passive, stoic, and active approaches, let's say you brute force yourself and you pull your partner back in again. Do you think that will change or remove her desire to want to leave? No. You'll always be sleeping with one eye open, and this is what we call in our program fake reconciliation. And we also have a video about this, about fake reconciliation. If you want to listen to a story about this, listen to a client story of mine with Andrew Wade, where he faced this fake reconciliation dilemma. Now, the second mistake that people make is when they simply give up. So this usually happens in 3 ways as well. Number one is that they might try all the toxic phases above that we told you about, and they realize that it doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, they say, oh, I tried everything, so there's something else to try. Let me just give up then. I can't really save this marriage anymore. The other one is more of a passive or active approach where you somehow think that her wanting to leave is somehow her fault. You tell yourself, for example, that she's not committed. You tell yourself that she cannot either see or appreciate your value. And the narrative you tell yourself in your head is, whatever, screw it. If she doesn't see my value, she doesn't appreciate me like this, she wants to leave like this after so many decades of marriage, then I'll find someone better. I'll just find someone who can commit. And the third way is when they play this very apathetic approach, the woe is me approach, when they just say to themselves, you know what, divorce is the end, it takes two to tango anyway, and they basically hear from other people here that if your partner wants divorce, it's impossible to change their mind, etc. Now, there are 3 very good reasons why this doesn't work. It might sound very obvious, but let me just spell it out for you. Usually, when your partner wants a divorce like this, and if you try, for example, the stoic approach, and you try to convince your partner to stay in the relationship with you, and basically what you're saying here is that you'll do anything. You'll do anything to keep her in the relationship, to do anything to improve yourself. You'll do anything unconditional. But then your partner says, you know what, I want a divorce, and you just back down. You just go, you know what, forget it then. Does that tell your partner that you will do anything? Does that tell your partner that your desire to change was actually genuine, was actually permanent? Or does it tell your partner that your desire to change was fake, was based on nothing, was going to be temporary anyway, to try to get her back, and that's it? So if you simply give up so easily like this, all you're doing is you're just telling your partner that she's right to leave because you had no intention of changing yourself for changing's sake, that you don't even understand the depth of your changes that you need to make, that upon very small resistance, you will just give up. Also, if you give up so easily like this, think about the subtle message you're giving to your partner as well. You're telling her that she's so messed up. Her mind, her paradigms, the way she works is so messed up that there cannot be possibly any good reasons why she wants to leave besides the fact that she's not committed, there's something wrong with her, she doesn't appreciate you, doesn't see your value, etc. That there's something deeply wrong with her. And if that's what you're saying, think about this. If that's what you're saying, then she's also right to leave you. And also, if you give up so easily like this, think about how this actually perpetuates the catch-22 that caused her to feel so hopeless in the first place. It shows her that you're not able to handle tough truths very, very well. As soon as things get hard, you give up. And it shows her that this is what happens when she finally tells you the truth of what she feels. When she finally tells you the truth of what she feels, you give up, you get angry, you just get very, very distant, you start blaming her, etc. That's really, really bad. It shows her again that you don't even see the depth of your own problems, of the problems of the relationship. It shows her that you don't actually have what it takes to listen to tough truths and to fix the situation, to do something about the situation. So again, if you are so quick to give up like this, all you're showing your partner again is that she was right to leave you in the first place for all these reasons above. And a lot of you may be using the argument of, let me just find someone new then, let me just find a new relationship. But what you don't understand again is that the exact same reasons why you cannot handle this news right now, you cannot lead your relationship away from divorce right now, is based on the same lack of mindsets and skills that caused the demise of the relationship in the first place. So if you ask yourself, for example, why do the problems pile up in the first place? Well, because of the lack of safety and trust. Why do you get blindsided? Because there wasn't safety and trust for your partner to tell you the problems before it piled up. Why doesn't she express herself? Same reasons. Why Does she feel so hopeless in this catch-22? Same reason. So the reason why you can't get out of this right now is that you don't have the internal skills and the external skills, the frameworks, for example, to be able to create emotional safety and psychological safety to get out of this. But the very reason why you got into this position in the first place is because you weren't able to create the emotional and psychological safety in the first place. So even if you try to escape this relationship and go, let me just find a new one, do you really think that you're not going to be repeating the same pattern over and over and over again without learning those skills? Something for you to think about. Now, the third pitfall is when we're trying to keep conversations light using tactics like smart contact, for example. This is when we're trying to keep conversations light, trying to avoid the problems, the big problems that are plaguing the relationship, that is making your partner feel very hopeless. And in fact, often here you're trying to wait for your partner to escalate the conversation, to bring up the tough topics, and you're not kind of rocking the boat in a way. And the scary thing about this is that this is what other programs teach as well. And a lot of my clients, when they first join my program, they tell me about what they learn at these other programs, and this is one of the things they learn. Now, there's two really big reasons why this doesn't work. So if you are trying to take the approach of let's avoid the tough topics, understand that whether you know it or not, whether you are aware of the existence of the problems or not, whether you talk about it or not, the problems are there anyway, beneath the surface, and they're plaguing that relationship no matter what. And if you try to avoid tough topics, then you might be in this position where, yes, things might feel better in the short term. But this is like having a pile of work piled up on top of your desk during work, and then you simply taking a vacation. And you feel great during the vacation, but it doesn't stop the fact that you still have a pile of work piled up on your desk when you come back to work. And while you're on vacation here, more and more things are getting piled up. So it's getting worse while you're feeling better. So when it comes time for you to actually confront the problems again, when the crap within the relationship gets so stinky to the point where you can no longer ignore it, then that's when crap hits the fan again. And at this point, during these very dark moments, you can have 3 months, 6 months of blissful vacation, but you will forget everything you experienced, all the good things you experienced during the blissful vacation when you're facing this really dark moment. And the truth again is that your partner is not going to be looking at what you do during that blissful vacation. She's going to be looking at what you do when things get really hard as evidence of whether you've changed or not. So those are the moments that really count. So don't fall into this escapist trap. Escaping the big problems are not going to work, guys. And number two, if you are waiting for her to bring up the tough topics to you before you bring up the tough topics yourself, then notice kind of the irony behind this. You are in this position right now due to the lack of emotional and psychological safety, right? Which means that your partner cannot really express herself to you. So how could it be a good idea for you to wait for your partner to bring things up when the very nature of the problem is that she cannot bring things up with you? So those are the three key mistakes that I see people making when they're on the brink of a divorce, separation, and they're acting out of this panic. Now I want to give you 5 very important paradigm shifts, mindset shifts that you need to really start to see this in a very different light. When you find out about a divorce, when the bomb drops here, a lot of people think that's a really bad thing, a threatening thing. But I teach my clients this is actually a really good step. So let's say your partner finally gathers up the courage to tell you, I want a divorce, I want a separation. Do you think her desire for a divorce or separation is new? Of course not. She's actually been thinking about this for a very long time. The only thing that changes now is that now you know about it. Now it comes into your awareness. But if you think about it, you knowing about it actually empowers you because it now empowers you to do something about it. Now, if your partner telling you that she wants a divorce, if you feel disempowered by that, if you feel demoted by that, if you feel angry by that, then again, let's go back to the 3 toxic phases. And it should be no mystery to you why your partner wants to leave in the first place. Because you're showing her again that when she finally tells you the tough truths, the real truths, this is how you react. You don't know how to react well against it. And if you cannot react well against it, that's why she feels the catch-22 in the first place. So think about this one very deeply, guys. Number 2, when your partner tells you that she wants a divorce, this is actually her testing to see if you have any changes or not. Think about this for a bit. Imagine if your partner tells you she wants a divorce and you react very badly to it, the 3 toxic phases above. What would that tell her? That would tell her, yep, I made the right decision, let's get out of here. But let's say you react very well. You react very poised. You actually make her feel good for telling you that. Would that make her go, am I making the right decision? Now, a lot of people may say, for example, well, Jeff, I've done something right before. Well, let's make sure that we have the right definition of what right means. So a lot of my clients, for example, who you saw earlier, they thought they were doing the right things by fighting back, by playing the three toxic faces. So we have to make sure here that we have the right understanding of what the right thing to do is. And it's not just enough also to do the right thing one time. It needs to be a long string of things, because let's say you do one thing right one time. Sure, it make your partner go, maybe he's changing. But how many times have she seen that you change temporarily for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, but then you go back to your old self again? So she needs to see that your changes here are permanent in the long term. And usually for my clients, this is 3 to 6 months of solid changes, of continuing to pass the test each and every day. And so when your partner tells you that she wants a divorce or a separation, that is what we call the paradox of change. So I'm not going to talk too deep about this because I've made this video a lot of times in the past already about the paradox of change. So I'm just going to link the video up here if you want to learn more about it. But to summarize, basically, when your partner tells you that she wants a divorce, that is not the end. That is actually the test in itself. That is actually the beginning of her testing, of her seeing whether you change or not. And for this one, I want to show you a story by Scott Barstad. And this is one of my clients as well, who faced the same problem too, whose wife waited till, I think, a week before the divorce papers were supposed to be filed and confirmed, before she said, you know what, I see your changes, let's forgo this divorce process entirely. So that's a very interesting story if you want to see, guys. So I'm going to link it above my head as well. And the number 3 thing to remember is that whatever is happening today was a result of what happened or what you did 6 to 24 months ago. And what you do today will affect not tomorrow, not next week, but what will happen 6 to 24 months from now. So there's 2 implications here. One is that there's nothing you can possibly say in the short term. Even if you come up with the perfect set of words, for example, to tell her how perfect you are right now, how you realized everything, do you think she would believe you? Because how many times have you said this before and she believed you and got burned because of it? So why would she believe you now? So again, there's nothing you can do in the short term, guys. So stop looking for shortcuts, for tactics, because there's none. You are wasting time if you're trying to find tactics and shortcuts. And so you have to learn how to think long term here, which is, again, what you do today will only affect what will happen in 6 to 24 months. And a lot of you may be looking at this and going, well, Jeff, I don't have time. I don't have 6 to 24 months. She's already wanting divorce right now. And this is when we need to understand the difference between the perfect product and the perfect process. And a lot of the times what I see, guys, is that your partner doesn't need to see that you're the perfect person. So it's not like we're saying here, you need 6 to 24 months to prove that you're the perfect person. It's not like that at all. All she wants to see is, do you have the right process to actually get you to the supposed rainbow of being the perfect product? And this is the only way out of the catch-22. As long as you simply can restore that hope of the perfect process, that's all she needs. And that's much easier to do, and that's well within your control. And the proof of this, guys, again, is that we enroll 1,000+ people every single year. All of them who wait till things are very dire before seeking my help. And very often, this impending divorce that they thought they were having never happened, because they can show again that they're the perfect process. And to show a story about this, I have a story with one of my clients, Jason Gerber. And he's been in the program at that time for about a year, or a year and a half, I think. And throughout that time, when he first joined the program, the divorce papers were already on his desk. And it kept disappearing, reappearing, disappearing, reappearing, until it eventually disappeared altogether. Because again, all your partner needs to see is that, do you have some changes in your process? And this is why also, if you look at our program, we give what we call the treating the hemorrhage script, or treating the hemorrhage system here. Now, I'm not going to talk about it here in this video, because this video is getting a bit long already. But this is a crucial thing that you can do to show your partner that you're changing in your process. And this is also why we prioritize internal mindset shifts a lot, because once you change what is internal, the external manifestations of it will naturally follow. And if you look at stories like Lawrence and Elsha, for example, it's the same thing, where Lawrence was changing so much so fast, and the changes seem so genuine, the processes seems to be changing so fast, that Elsha, his wife, actually came into the program, and she started talking about the program with him, enjoying the program with him, etc. as well. And number 5, guys, to never forget, is that she's always watching. She's always watching you. Even if you don't think she's watching you, she is watching you. And a lot of my clients have come to realize this in a very, very big way. And I'm going to show you some screenshots here just to show you how often this actually happens. Even if she's telling you that she's not watching, she's not even going to talk to you, She's always watching. Because again, you were the person that she chose to spend maybe multiple years or decades of her life with. Do you think she can just simply stop watching like that? Do you think she actually wants to divorce without even talking to you again? Understand that she needs to create this environment where it becomes impossible for you to fake your changes. So again, watch that video on the paradox of change if you want to understand why your partner needs to do this, why she must do this. Because if she makes it easy for you, then she would not know if what you're doing is because it's easy or because you really, really want to do it deep down. And it's a genuine source and motivation within. And the last one here, guys, is that you have to ensure that you prioritize long-term internal changes rather than short-term external tactics. You have to find what are the right layers of changes I need to make internally, but also externally. And for us, we've identified that as you need to know the frameworks and you need to know the internal shifts of having a higher self-esteem, being untethered, being bulletproof, identity shifting, antithetic thinking, etc. So if you want to learn more about that process, I have a masterclass that you can join for you to learn more about all these layers of changes and why these layers of changes are so crucial. And remember, guys, you have to master these changes, not on a surface level, but on a very deep identity level. And a great quote that I always ask people to remember is, don't practice something until you can get it right. Practice and master something until you can't get it wrong. Think about the difference there. A lot of people who play around these tactics, they can get things right sometimes, but they always do something wrong. And they do something wrong without even knowing about it often. But my clients, they only get the results when they can find the right things to do and they can avoid doing wrong on those things, where it's so deeply ingrained into their subconscious. It's become their lowest default is to do the right things, where they do the right things accidentally, not do the right things just occasionally. Now I realize, guys, this video did not contain everything possible for you to really fight or combat your partner's desire for divorce and really save your relationship. It's impossible because we have 100+ hours in our program teaching people how to do this. It takes our clients 6 to 12 months to really learn the skills how to do this. But I hope that was helpful for you in giving you a different perspective of how you can look at this scenario altogether. Now I'm going to leave you with 2 other resources here with more videos or more stories with my clients showing you how the principles that I talked about here manifest and how they're applied to a real life setting. So with that, guys, I hope that was helpful and I'll see you in the next video.